Good evening, everyone. My name is Nelson Pierce, and I'm the pastor of Beloved Community Church here in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I'm excited to be working with Common Strategies in partnership with the Black Environmental Leaders Association to host this year's Black Landscapes Matter conversations. The Black Environmental Leaders Association are aligned as stewards of the natural and built environment through collaboration and partnership to raise awareness and advocate for environmental and economic justice. And once again, Black Landscapes Matter will be engaging in statewide conversations that explore and elevate the connections between our environment and racial justice. We will be traveling virtually around the state of Ohio to hear from environmental experts, local activists, community leaders, and other critical voices about some of the environmental and landscape challenges facing Black people in cities and communities across the state. Yes, one of the goals in this series is to be able to name the injustices we as Black people go through and the ways that our built environment has been constructed without regard for our well being and health, but it won't stop there. This conversation is also a conversation about Black futures. This conversation is about hope and healing, where we invite ourselves to dream about, to strategize for, and ultimately to create new Black landscapes in which our children, our elders, and all of us in between can breathe free as we do more than survive, but we thrive. This is why this conversation matters. And this is why it matters that you are here. And so I just want to take a moment to say thank you for being here and for being a part of this series of amazing conversations. Today's conversation is an excellent way to highlight the nexus point between the legacy of environmental racism and the possibility of an equitable and just future. Today, we are talking about an amazing and important effort to transform Cleveland's lakeshore. This transformation will have an essential environmental impact as well as establishing increased equity and access to one of the land's greatest natural resources. And if that isn't enough reason to listen in, the name of the project itself oozes with positivity. I am talking, of course, about C.H.E.E.R.S. But enough of my introduction. Let's meet our award-worthy panel and then lift up our conversational cups to cheers. As you are listening in, I want to invite you to share questions that you have for our panelists. And if we have time, we will try our best to integrate those conversations into the conversation. So let's begin. I will invite our panelists to introduce themselves, and we will start with Kelly.
Hey, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for the invitation to join you tonight. My name is Kelly Kaufman. I'm a planner with Cleveland Metro Parks. I've worked in the natural world as a landscape architect for 30 years, and I have to say the project we're talking about tonight is just, my favorite project of my entire career. So what makes it so special, I think, is really the voices that we've been able to hear. And one thing I've learned, I think, is there's always the opportunity to do more. And so I'll be giving an overview of the project to date, but I think I'll speak on behalf of the rest of the panelists as well. What we're really excited about is the conversation that'll follow that presentation. So I'll turn it over to my colleague, Ariel Washington.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here as well. My name is Ariel Washington. I work for the city of Cleveland. I am the Northeast District, Northeast neighborhoods of Cleveland. I am the planner for that area. And I will pass the torch to Ms. Linda Steinheimer.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm Linda Sternheimer. I'm the Director of Urban Planning and Engagement for the Port of Cleveland. And I'm very excited also to talk about this project, C.H.E.E.R.S. I'll turn it over to you, Bridget.
Hi, I'm Bridget Stala. I work for the Ohio Department of Transportation in this local District 12, which covers Cuyahoga County along with Lake and Geauga counties. I'm a transportation engineer here at ODOT, and I am the liaison for this exciting project. And I'm excited to hear what your concerns are about what we're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you to each of our esteemed panelists for being here. Kelly, we will start the conversation with you. Will you give people who may not be aware an overview about C.H.E.E.R.S?
Yes, definitely. I'm going to share some visuals here, and I'll try to also, talk through them for folks that may not have the visual component. I'm a little rusty with Zoom. Could you tell me, are you seeing my shared screen all right?
Yep, we see it.
The slides showing up okay? Okay, great. Well, again, we're here to talk about C.H.E.E.R.S, and that's our handy acronym for the Cleveland Harbor Eastern Embayment Resilience Strategy. So it's a lot more fun to say C.H.E.E.R.S. But the graphic you see before you shows the lakefront near downtown Cleveland, just east of the city. And what we're really proposing, to expand lakefront parks and to really take advantage of being a lakefront community. So this graphic shows a map of Cleveland with the project area just highlighted, so you can see how close we are to downtown and adjacent to these key neighborhoods. The partners, many of whom you're hearing from tonight on the panel, the City of Cleveland, two state agencies, both the Department of Natural Resources and the Ohio Department of Transportation, the Port of Cleveland, Cleveland Metro Parks, and Black environmental leaders are a key partner as well. So this is another view from out over the lake, looking back toward the lakefront as it exists today. So you can see there is a Cleveland Lakefront Nature Preserve, which is a favorite birding spot. There are some parks that give some access to the lake at East 72nd, East 55th, but they're kind of disconnected, and it's really a harsh shoreline. The lakefront was built out over time, and so it's a lot of hardened shoreline, steel bulkhead, and a lot of wave action with energy coming in off the lake. So as we kind of embarked on the idea of trying to make improvements to that existing lakefront, we found ourselves really kind of honing in on three areas where we could see this project delivering benefits. And so those are the environment, the economy, and the community. And the community really is especially focused on our adjacent neighborhoods that were really once lakefront neighborhoods and then have been separated from the lake by railroad tracks, by the construction of an interstate, and left with really that harsh environment that we talked about. So we touched on the partners from the kind of the agency side, but then we do have quite a large partnership of consultants that are helping us with the design and planning. So they've developed a lot of the materials that we'll be sharing. So this is this is a view of Cleveland, the study area, and you see the lake at the top of the screen. You see kind of the parks in the middle of the screen, and then that band that runs through right along the lake is Interstate 90. The neighborhoods that we really want to serve and help connect to the lake are south of there, and they include Asiatown, Midtown, St. Clair Superior, Glenville, Huff, a lot of communities where disinvestment has really happened over time. And, to make matters worse, some of the past decisions have really, left the communities kind of disinvested and not connected to the natural resources here. And another interesting component of the project is the dark teal in this illustration really shows where the shoreline used to be. And you can see where past decisions have just kind of filled out into the lake, but not always with a concern for public access and for park space. So a important component of this project relates to the economy, and I'll ask Linda to speak to these slides about the dredge components.
Sure. What you're seeing on the screen now is in red is the Cleveland Harbor and the Cuyahoga River, which is a navigable ship channel for commerce, and the maritime industry in the region is, these numbers are a little old. We just updated our economic impact study, but it's over 22,000 jobs and $4.7 billion of economic activity for the region. We move over 13 million tons of cargo annually. And what you're seeing is the Cuyahoga River is 6 miles, and then the protected break wall, which you'll see just above, just north of the red there, if you can point to that, Kelly, which protects the harbor from wave action. So every year, the Cuyahoga River needs to be dredged of material to keep it at a depth at which ships can move cargo up and down the river. And roughly the Army Corps of Engineers responsible for dredging out over 250,000 cubic yards of material annually. And the dredging part is easy, but figuring out what we're going to do with that material is the challenge. And what we currently do with it is we have confined disposal facilities just north of Burke Lakefront Airport, and materials placed there. Some of it is harvested out and mixed and used for roadway projects and different landside projects. But as those facilities move towards a capacity, we're really looking at the next 20 years and what we can do with this material coming out of the river, how we can use it for an asset for our community. And that's really, that was really the birth of the idea of C.H.E.E.R.S.
That's great. Thanks, Linda. So getting into that, what really started the process going? There had been numerous studies for the Lake Erie waterfront over time, and parts of these have been implemented, but we really felt it was time to take a comprehensive look at this stretch of the lakefront and to see, as Linda mentioned, with the opportunity to have some beneficial reuse of dredge material, how we could really enhance the existing parks and make those community connections. So this is one of the former plans, so there were some bold visions out there, and really what we tasked ourselves with was still try to be bold, but have an implementable plan. So I'm really excited to kind of share the process and where we are today. But if you visit the lakefront in this portion of Cleveland today, you'll see that it's pretty kind of somewhat basic parks. There's lawn, there's parking lots, and then there's kind of that sheer edge along the water. And so there's really an opportunity to add habitat while we protect the shoreline. I think Bridget will probably mention this as we kind of begin the conversation, but there's tremendous impact on Interstate 90 since it was constructed right along the lake. And you can see kind of the wave action in this photo where it's really susceptible to impacts from storms. Community access, we do have a trail, but it's also directly adjacent to the highway. So are there ways we can improve that experience and better serve the community through the parks? And then just that ongoing impact of the wave action. It's really tough to get up next to the water in the parks as they are today. This is really an important piece also, the intersection of social vulnerability and environmental risk. I think, I don't know about, throughout the state, but definitely in Cleveland, we've seen changing climate even in the last few weeks. You know, we have a 70-degree day and then we have 6 inches of snow. But just that greater variability in climate, and to try to mitigate those impacts and mitigate the impacts both to infrastructure and to really lift up the adjacent communities so that there are kind of more resources available to people that live in the adjacent areas. So this is really what the partners brought to kind of the initial idea of C.H.E.E.R.S. We were able to get a grant to fund the initial plan. And you'll see that we're all really trying to focus, though, on the community in the center, and to not just have an idea and, you know, tell the community, boy, isn't this great? Right? Aren't you glad we did this? But to listen to the community from the outset. And so that has been really rewarding. I think the community has been really, you know, gracious with their time to give feedback. And one of the number one things we heard is just, you know, places to touch the water, that it's, you know, you're basically a lakefront neighborhood, but there's no real way for you to touch Lake Erie. So that we took that, you know, really seriously when we developed the design. So, you know, with this knowledge, you know, really setting forth to try to expand habitat and make that a vibrant, living lakefront, finding beneficial use for dredge material, improving access and connectivity, and then trying to lift up the whole neighborhood. That we're really trying to make impacts for the people that live there now. And we've been talking about the complexity of that, you know, wanting to prevent displacement and thinking now as we embark on this 20-year project about how we can do the work now so that we don't have adverse impacts and kind of unintended consequences later. A lot of people deserve credit for the plan that's been developed. You know, we've worked with an extensive team of stakeholders, and we're having quarterly meetings now, but our list of stakeholders has topped out over about 150 folks. So even just, you know, making sure we can listen to what people are saying in these stakeholder meetings is another challenge. But the layer over that is overall community engagement. And so the project kicked off actually during COVID. And so we had to be really creative. You know, that was my first Zoom call. I don't know how many folks had used Zoom before, you know, before the pandemic started. And so we did do online communication. We had surveys, we had a scavenger hunt. But one of my favorite activities, and if folks, you know, on the panel participated, we were able to do small in-person walking tours that we called walk shops, and to listen to people as we walked along the lakefront to hear, you know, here are some short-term things we could do to make the parks more attractive, and really working to try to, you know, welcome people from the neighborhood in particular to come out and use these lakefront parks and to really, you know, feel the joy of being out there along the water. This is the plan that we ended up with. We had a really interesting process where the bubbles along the sides of this illustration are ideas for kind of features. And what we did through the process was get the top ranking features and then kind of fit those to a site plan. So this shows more than doubling the existing parkland along the lake, and then, you know, baking in all these great things to come and see and do. And this talks a little bit about how we got, you know, through that process with the basic concepts and then the more specific features, and then kind of what that site layout looked like. We're actually still refining this, still doing engineering, but this is the plan that we ended up coming up with. And so not only did we take in all the input and all the ideas of what people would like to see, but then we're reporting back out of all the different benefits that this project could generate. And so, you know, benefits for the city and the region, the regional economy, really, with the dredge material use, protecting the interstate, building up better equity in recreational amenities, really supplementing the natural habitat. You know, the lakeshore is so important for our migratory birds, insects, fish habitat, and that this just is kind of a night and day difference along this stretch of the lakefront. Looking at access, both from the neighborhood to the lakefront and then along the lakefront, really having a lot of options to get out and use trails, to experience the lakefront, and then places to engage with water and different ways, you know, whether it's fishing, paddle sports, maybe it's just enjoying views and feeling at peace, but really trying to accommodate all these different ideas within the footprint of C.H.E.E.R.S. I'm going to kind of skip through these next items pretty quickly and invite everybody to look at our website if you want to really dig into the report, but this really just goes to the level of detail that went into that graphic of the site plan. So we kind of talk about that in terms of systems. And so these are all the kind of the nodes and the spaces for people and the different activities and how they fit on the site. This is the bike, pedestrian, and paddle kind of circulation kind of through and to the site, looking at how vehicles move through the site and kind of balancing adequate parking, but not having the park be kind of overrun by parking. You know, so many different things to balance. This looks at some of the key routes from our adjacent neighborhoods up to the lakefront, particularly along the main roadways of East 55th and East 72nd. And then one of the key considerations with the project is really the wave action. And as I mentioned initially, this stretch of the lakefront really gets hammered, especially in a storm situation, because you can see the line right here is the federal breakwater, which is, it absorbs that wave energy, but it ends right in the area where our project is proposed. And so a key part of that aisle, which is really a fun component of the project, it's also really serving as a barrier aisle, that it's absorbing that wave energy. And what that does is gives us a lot of flexibility on the interior of the cove space to have that softened shoreline. So instead of, you know, a sheer wall, we can have kind of living plants and places for, you know, fish to breed and that sort of thing. And then this speaks to more specifically kind of all those different types of habitat that we're going to try to construct, what the shoreline conditions will look like, kind of how those pieces all fit together. So it's really fun to see, you know, we're designing for plants, animals, birds, but also, you know, kind of habitat for people so that it's a great place for people to be. And so these illustrations kind of help share the vision. I think these communicate really well. So again, this is as if you're a bird kind of up over the lake looking back to the neighborhoods. And again, we have Glenville. We're very close to University Circle, St. Clair Superior, Midtown Asiatown, and then really only about 2 miles from downtown Cleveland. So very vibrant area, you know, just so much great potential here. And then the features we're talking about are, you know, thinking about the lakefront in all 4 seasons and what kind of activities there can be and how we can, you know, encourage people to get out and really enjoy those spaces. The habitat loop where we'd have boardwalk out over the lake and kind of that, you know, just kind of, you can almost hear the hum of activity of birds and insects and all the things going on. Just a great place to get immersed in that natural area. And then still, you know, you see the skyline in the background, you know, you can walk along the shore. There's places to try paddle sports and again, that protected cove that you're not going to see a big wave come through. Just space again to get out and, you know, just have a relaxing day out along the lake with the aisle, you know, still having some lawn areas. Fishing, we heard from a lot of people and really grateful to hear people share their memories of how they use the lake, visited the lakefront. A lot of people said fishing with family members. So we want to enhance that and provide a lot of different opportunities. But then getting into how we're going to build it. So as I mentioned, this is about a 20-year project. And so we are still really kind of knee deep in trying to figure out how we kind of chunk this down into pieces so that we will be constructing it kind of a piece at a time and then kind of finishing off those sections with park amenities and opening that to the public while other areas may be under construction. So
Kelly,
this is,
can I
yeah,
pause you for 1 second?
definitely.
I want to come back to explore this slide where the phases where we are and what's going to come forward. So if you can just hold the place right here.
Sure.
But I want to bring in, before we get too deep into what is to come, I want to bring Bridget into the conversation
Oh, wonderful.
to talk about the how the Ohio Department of Transportation became involved in Cheers and their work in the beginning of this project. So, Bridget, if you would share a little bit about how Cheers began and how the Ohio Department of Transportation is played a part in this.
Yes, thank you, Nelson. And thanks, Kelly. That I always enjoy hearing about it again because I sometimes forget all the nitty-gritty details. But the Ohio Department of Transportation's mission is to provide safe and easy movement of people and goods from place to place. And here in District 12, we're especially considerate of safety. And as Kelly noted, every year we have massive waves come over and hit I-90 because it basically abuts the shore. You can't really walk too much past it in the park right now. It's right up against the lake almost. In fact, we just had a storm here where we poured salt after salt truck to no avail. There was so much water on the I-90, it almost shuts down all the lanes where it's like going through a flood. So our interest came in. It's much cheaper for us to participate in this great project that has all these end goals of connecting the community, enlivening recreational spaces for people, encouraging economic development, than for us to build a wall and stop the wave action. This is a much better solution that has multiple benefits to a lot of different problems that Kelly laid out. So that's ODOT's role. We're very excited to be part of this project, and we think it'll improve safety immensely along the stretch of I-90 and also help us connect the neighborhoods, the pedestrian, bicycle, transit connections, I think are somewhat lacking to this. And once the amenities are improved, there'll be a big need to make those really strong so people are accessing it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bridget. As you were talking about the importance of connectivity in this as well, I wanted to bring Ariel in to talk about how this project is hoping to improve connectivity and increasing the public's ability to access the lakeshore.
Okay, hello everyone again. So the way that the project is looking to improve connectivity is through the different, on another slide, you saw East 72nd, you saw East 55th. There's also another big main street that will provide a lot of connection, which is MLK. And you also saw on the slide Gordon Park. Through those nodes, or those places, the community will be able to access the waterfront. They'll be able to get over the I-90 and get over and access these different attractions that you see over here. We have like the small island it's like a nature preserve over there. People can get over there to watch the birds. They can walk over there. There's a lot of possibilities with the island over there that people can start to engage away from inside the neighborhood. There are other connections that are coming forth in the city, well, improved connections, because they're already there. So whether you are trying to connect to the waterfront through walking as a pedestrian or riding your bike, you can access those through the different access points that I named, that are opening up to get people across and over and engaged with the waterfront and these parks that are over here.
Mhm. And then I'm just curious. So, for people like myself who live in Cincinnati, and certainly I've been to Cleveland and have had a chance to view from a distance, and especially as I've driven here, as you see on the screen in front of you, Interstate 90. I've driven this stretch of road, and so I've seen the lake as I've passed by. But I would have no idea about the level of community engagement or interaction with the lake prior to this plan. And so for myself or other outsiders from around the state, could you share what has the for a regular Clevelander, what would have been their ability to access or interact with the lake over the past, let's say, 10, 15, 20 years?
You said, what is their inability
What
to
was their,
access?
like, how much ability would they have had to have interacted with the lake, or what might that interaction have looked like 10, 15, 20 years ago?
10, 15 years ago, I would say there was not a limited ability to access the lake or the waterfront. I would say it's more so mindset. You kind
Hmm.
of have to get out and go out and see what's there. There are a lot of things in Cleveland that Clevelanders are unaware of because we don't get out and see what they are. I engage in the waterfront, but I will be honest and say it out loud. Being a part of this project, I learned about the island. I never knew. I ride my bike to the lakefront. I was in the city of Euclid, so they have a pier. I would go sit over there. I've been to Edgewater. You see people fishing. Again, this is 2023, and I'm just learning about the island. I won't date myself, but I never knew about it prior. So myself, as a Cleveland resident, born and raised, I didn't even know about that. So I would say it's more of an engagement
Hmm.
point to it. And I know that in the beginning, you spoke about basically disenfranchisement, if I'm saying the correct
Hmm.
word, if I'm
Yep.
saying the right one, just to not get away from that or bypass that and not say that it doesn't mean anything. Of course, at one point, there are many individuals that may feel that, okay, the waterfront is not for me, or that space, I'm not allowed there. But over the years, racial lines and everything, has changed. People get out there and see it. There are many Black boaters and things in the city of Cleveland. There is even a African American owned yacht club, the only one, not many in the United States. My grandfather, or I have friends that fish. So it's just a matter of broadening our horizons. I have a grandmother that told me about when she got married, about walking downtown and they had a hot dog. Most people in 2023 would not think that was a romantic thing, to catch the bus downtown on your wedding day and eat a hot dog, and be at the waterfront. But those things are there, and those is still accessible. One thing that a lot of people would say that has stopped them from going to the waterfront, they would say automobiles,
Mm.
things like that. So times are changing and there's different ways to engage. If you don't have a car, this project, and again, other projects in the city of Cleveland are opening up access for people to walk, to ride their bikes, to get over to the waterfront.
Mhm.
A big thing about this project that I like, that it opens up for many individuals in the city of Cleveland and just on the waterfront period, because it spans several cities, your access to healthcare. So to be able to get out and walk, the time of the year doesn't matter. So to be able to get to the waterfront, to walk this lakefront, to be able to bike, to be able to walk, those are health
Mhm.
benefits.
Mhm.
And that's something that I would like others to really think about, you know, not just to walk around the neighborhood. Sometimes you need a change of scenery. I used to run. I don't like running on a treadmill. It's nothing like getting out in the environment in the neighborhood and pounding your feet on the ground. I know it does something, a number on your knees, but again, your whole experience of getting out and you experience your city different on foot or even on bike is better than in a car. You miss things. You get to engage yourself
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. I think one of the things I want to highlight that I heard from you is that um, the the challenge between um, when structural barriers are removed, there are so often assumed barriers that are in place. And so while the lakefront may have been accessible to people for a while, perceptions that the lakefront is for somebody else and not for me, or that I might not be welcome there, or even the um, not even thinking about the lakefront as something to explore, that happens so often. And one of the benefits of such a robust community engagement process is that it helps change those perceptions, open people's eyes and minds, and help people to discover possibilities in their own cities and in their own backyards that they might not have known existed before.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, I think
Exactly.
through this process, one of the things we really want to hit home to people is while we're planning for the future, we want people to come out and engage with water, engage with the parks now.
Yeah.
And, hopefully through this, the workshops that Kelly talked about and our continued public engagement, people can see that there are, maybe different amenities that they hadn't been aware of, like the Cleveland Lakefront Nature Preserve, which Ariel was talking about, with which is an important birding stop. So, we really want this to be something that isn't just in the future, but that people can utilize the asset now.
Yeah, it is. While we are planning for a better future, let's also take advantage of what is available to us right now in the moment. Yeah.
And another thing I would like to say is to also recognize the opportunities that already exist on the lakefront now that this is being opened up. So since you say you're from Cincinnati, you
Mhm.
know about Edgewater. So there's a lot of vibrancy at Edgewater. Well, some of that vibrancy can float up the
Mhm.
lakefront. So people won't have to just, oh, I have to find a ride. I have to Uber. I have to catch the train to go down to Edgewater and experience, you know, entertainment or music or swimming or anything like that. We can have this up here also. The goal is to enjoy the lakefront from A to Z,
Mhm.
basically. And it's just stringing that along. So
Yeah.
that's a big part of the project. Um, a lot would think, a lot of people bring up, they always say Edgewater, but the thing is to string it along the whole lakefront to be able to use that.
Yeah. This has been um, this is such a great conversation. I wonder what has if you had to think about what have been the biggest wins so far in this process and understanding that much of the work still is yet to come, but what would you celebrate as the biggest wins so far?
For me, one of my, well, it's not even my big win because this is a collaboration, it's a collective. And again, I was not here in the start. I'm coming in the middle of this, but one thing that I think is a great celebration is that we've been able to connect with people in the neighborhoods and get their feedback. And through that, we're getting people to kind of change perception, that we talked about in the beginning, is getting people to think about the waterfront, about the lakefront, how they would access it. For those that thought about, oh, I couldn't get here. We've been talking about it so much in many community meetings and many surveys. Now I know it's percolating in people's minds. Well, what's over there? Let me go over there and look. When is this starting?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I, I, I love that comment, Ariel, and I would just build on that too. It has been really rewarding to have, the conversations kind of throughout the community. I want to give special recognition to Black environmental leaders for your participation and the energy that your organization has brought to this conversation. We wouldn't be here without you. I think just the fact that it's a partnership. Not too many years ago, I think different organizations would be in competition with one another, but the fact that we are able to kind of see our common ground and work to lift up what's really best for the overall community has been noticed and has been rewarded with some funding from outside sources. And Linda, I'll throw it to you too, but with a project of this magnitude, there's no way any of us could do it on our own.
Yeah, I'll just add that, that one slide where you have all the different partner organizations and maybe our organizational goals for this project. While we all have our, I'll say, mission of our organization, like Bridget mentioned, transportation for ODOT and parks for Metro Parks, but I think we all really see the huge benefit that this project could realize for so many things beyond our organizations. And that's really been rewarding for me, and I think very exciting for all the partners. And I think that we've been able to gain a lot of momentum because of that overarching benefit.
Yeah. The and so Kelly, I do want to go back to the slide where we left off. And so as we think about where this is now, what has happened, and then where we're going, what's next? What should people expect is coming through Cheers?
Thank you. Yes, I would love to talk about some of the next steps. We are really in the middle of some environmental studies and some engineering design. And then we're going to embark on permitting because our country's waterways are overseen by federal agencies and also state agencies. So we have some complexity there, but we're really in the midst of figuring out how do we build this and aligning funding to make it happen. So the earliest that we would probably see any construction would be 2025, and it'll be probably a 20-year process. Right now, we're in the midst of continuing some community engagement as we refine that plan that we're sharing. It's gonna shift and change a little bit, but I really want to encourage folks. if they can visit the project website. It's very much a partnership. We just happen to host the information on clevelandmetroparks.com/cheers. You can find full information, but we also have a link to a survey that is live right now through about mid-April. And so it's just our time to, revisit and refine what the plan's going to be, but we're actively pursuing funding that will allow us to bring this into reality. So would love to hear more ideas. The website has a comment form, so if you visit, you can send us your ideas or what your priority is, and just the way that we can make this investment most beneficial for the community.
Yeah, and so I just want to encourage people as you're seeing this slide right now, pull out your phone and turn on your camera and point your camera at the QR code so that it will pop up right there. And you can press on the button that emerges and it will take you directly to the survey so that as soon as this conversation wraps up, you can go and complete the survey so that your voice can be added, your perspective can be heard, and you can have an impact on what happens moving forward. So do that right now before you forget. Take out your camera and pull up the QR code so that you can take the survey just as soon as this conversation is finished. So I would just, as we are winding this conversation down, as we are coming to the close of our time, I would just like to hear from each of you, what is your biggest hope about what is possible for the future of Cleveland as it relates to the shoreline? Where do you hope this project, what's one hope you have for where this project ends up and what it means for the city and for the shoreline itself? And Linda, I'm going to start with you. What is your biggest hope?
My hope is that the lakefront and utilizing the shoreline become an integral part of people's daily lives, and not a one-off destination, but really become a part of it everyday life for Clevelanders.
Thank you so much. Kelly, what is your biggest hope?
Really similar to Linda's, I think experiencing the waterfront in person feels so restorative that I want particularly people that live in the adjacent neighborhoods to get that experience and to start now. Maybe not today because it's not that great out, but to start now. And I want St. Clair Superior and I want Glenville to have pride that they are lakefront neighborhoods, to really, view themselves that this lakefront, belongs to them.
Yeah, thank you so much. Ariel, what about you? What is your biggest hope?
My biggest hope is that the city of Cleveland can let the waterfront elevate to its highest capability. I'm an adventurous. I see the waterfront all 4 seasons. I don't think that and I travel. So I want people to be able to come to Cleveland in the winter, water sports on the lakefront, come in the summer, swim. You can surf in Cleveland. You don't have to go to Cali. You can come to Cleveland. In the spring, in the fall, there's bird watching, there's many activities and partnerships we can create with schools and have things with biologists. There's so many things that are open for the waterfront. So I see Cleveland just becoming great with that waterfront. It's underutilized. We're gonna do it.
Yeah. The one of the things that I am appreciating more and more about Ohio is that in every corner, in every pocket of the state, there is so much more that's available to us than we often make time for or take advantage of. And so, for all of the people who live who live in the land, um, we hope that you are taking advantage of, or if you have not, that you will take advantage of what's available at the lakeshore now. And we look forward to this project as it continues to develop and all of the things that become available. I just want to say thank you so much to Ariel Washington. Thank you so much to Linda Sternheimer, and thank you so much to Kelly Kaufman for taking time to engage in conversation with us today. I think one of the things that has emerged for me out of this conversation is how important the work of collaboration is to us building a sustainable future. I think far too often we think that many voices lead to confusion, or that differing opinions mean that somebody has to be right or somebody has to be wrong. And I think one of the things that this project helps us to remember is that when we take time and listen to the voices of people who have different perspectives, the possibilities that emerge for us are greater than what they would have been if we had gone it alone. It reminds me of the great African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And so I just want to say thank you to Cheers for kicking off this year's Black Landscape Matter conversations. And I hope that this spirit of collaboration that we see in this project not only continues to strengthen Cleveland and the lakeshore, but that the lessons that are learned from it strengthen the rest of the state as well. Again, let me say thank you to our panelists. I want to say thank you to Samia Bray and the Black Environmental Leaders Association for hosting this initiative. Thank you to Common Strategies for coordinating this series and allowing me to play a small part in this very important work. And most of all, thank you for tuning in and listening. We hope this conversation has been educational and informative, and we hope that it spurs your participation, whether you're in Cleveland or somewhere else in the state, in helping us to build a better future together. Thank you, everybody, and we hope you have a